So in this video we are going to continue our discussion, and we will focus mainly on gamete production and delivery. So starting with that, to reproduce sexually, animals must produce gametes, and individuals have gonads. So these are the organs in which the gametes will be produced, and they include sets of accessory tubes and glands that carry and nourish and protect the gametes and developing embryos. We are not going to dig deep in that, in the anatomy of that, so we will pass this to the next slide, to the gameteogenesis. So this is the process of production of the gametes, and it differs in male and female, and that reflects the distinct structural and functional differences among these gametes. So if you remember from a previous video, we mentioned that the sperms are the smaller gametes, the eggs are the larger gametes. So sperms are the smaller gametes, they are motile, and usually they are produced in large numbers because, remember, they need to swim to fertilize the eggs, they need to move to the egg to fertilize it, so they have flagella for motility, and they are small in size to be able to swim and move, and that reflects the structural and functional features. And then moving to the eggs, these are the larger gametes. They need to be large to nourish the embryo, and because of that they are not moving to the sperms, so we don't need to produce many of them. So gameteogenesis can be divided into spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So spermatogenesis is the development of sperms. So this is described as being continuous and prolific. So millions of sperms are produced. So prolific because millions of sperms are produced per day, and continuous because actually this starts once puberty is hit. So it is produced, these sperms will be produced like on daily basis, continuously, starting from puberty, and this whole process will take about 7 weeks to develop. So each sperm takes about 7 weeks to develop. So let's go through the process. So we start with germ cell. This germ cell undergoes mitotic division, and as you know, mitotic division means that the cell is multiplying, and we will form spermatogonial stem cell. Again, it will go through mitotic division, so more multiplication of these cells that will give us the spermatogonium, and then more and more mitotic division to end up with the primary spermatocyte. So the suffix site reminds us that this is a cell, and actually this is the cell that is going to undergo meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So it starts with a diploid cell like that. By the end of meiosis 1 we will have 2 haploid cells. Each one of these haploid cells will go through meiosis 2 to give rise to 2 haploid cells. They are called the early spermatid. This early spermatid undergoes stages of development and maturation to give the sperm cell at the end. So as you can see, these steps occur in the seminiferous tubules, and starting from one germ cell we end up with 4 sperm cells. So this is one major difference between it and oogenesis. So once we move on to oogenesis, which is the second type of gameteogenesis. So oogenesis is the development of mature egg, and this is a prolonged process. So it starts with the formation of immature eggs. These form in the female during the embryonic stage, but so remember, they are immature. They don't complete their development until years or decades later. So what is happening is that what you can see here in this grayish or beige color is occurring in the embryo of the female. So we start with germ cell, again undergoing mitotic division to give us the oogonium, which again undergoes further mitotic division, so multiplication of the cells, to give us the primary oocyte. So these primary oocytes, remember, this is happening in the embryo. So in the female, even before she is born, the oogenesis starts, and the female gets all her primary oocyte before she is born. So after she is born, the process stops of production primary oocytes. So she has all her primary oocytes once she is born, but they are immature eggs. They need further development, and that's what will happen during the next years, because it is a long process that may take years or decades, so the rest of the life of the female. So what will happen, these primary oocytes is like frozen in development. They don't develop, they stay like this frozen till the hormones start at puberty, and then what will happen is they will be released from the embryo, and once the hormones are there, they will go through meiosis 1, and they will go through part of meiosis 2. So starting with 2N diploid cells like that, we end up with a haploid cell. So to reduce a diploid cell into a haploid cell, this produces what we call a polar body. We will come to this later, but let's focus on this cell. So this cell is called the secondary oocyte. So the secondary oocyte is what is going to be released during ovulation, as we said, under hormonal regulation. So the secondary oocyte is going to be released during ovulation, and once sperm is there, it will fertilize this secondary oocyte, and by fertilization of this oocyte, now meiosis 2 has been completed. Remember, we have gone through meiosis 1 and we started meiosis 2, but it has been arrested at the metaphase. I'm not going to go into the details of meiosis 2, but it has been arrested in one of the stages of meiosis 2. Let's say it this way. So one of the stages of meiosis 2, and it will be completed only if the oocyte is being fertilized by a sperm. So now we will have the fertilized egg. So again, this ovulation and fertilization, this fertilization step will result in the release of the second polar body. These two polar bodies are going to degenerate. So what will remain at the end is this fertilized egg. So from one germ cell and one oogonium, we ended up with one fertilized egg. If you compare it with the spermatogenesis, we end up with 4 sperm cells from 1 germ cells and 1 spermatogonial stem cell. So one cell gives 4 sperm cells. Here, one cell gives 1 fertilized egg. So to compare both types of gameteogenesis, so spermatogenesis against oogenesis, they differ mainly in 3 points. Number 1, we have 4 products of meiosis. The all 4 develop into sperm cells. So we have 4 sperms coming out from spermatogenesis, while we have only 1 egg coming from the 4 products of meiosis in oogenesis. The second difference is that spermatogenesis occurs throughout adolescence and adulthood. So as we said, once puberty has been hit, starting from that day, it occurs throughout the adolescence and adulthood, while as we see in oogenesis, the production of these primary oocytes stops at birth. So it occurs during the embryonic stages during the embryo and stops at birth. Sperms are produced continuously without the prolonged interruptions in oogenesis. So remember, oogenesis, the primary oocytes, they produced and they produced during the embryo, and they were like kept like on hold, frozen till the puberty. So there is a big and long periods of interruptions. This is not the case with spermatogenesis. Sperms, once puberty is hit, sperms are produced continuously on daily basis without interruptions. So these are the three major differences between the two types of the gametogenesis.